All right, guys, as we're waiting for our steel to be able to be installed on the roof, which today is a gorgeous. Did you realize how gorgeous it was, Craig? Yeah, it's really nice out. We've just come out of extreme heat. It was breezy yesterday. I think it's supposed to get windy here in the next couple days, but we don't have a way to get our steel up on the roof. Our roof plank that we use normally is made out of wood. I left it outside probably for the last year. Part of it's treated, part of it's not, and it broke on us as soon as we went to go lift it. So we've got another option coming, and I'll share that with you guys when it gets here. But in the meantime, we can't install our metal. So what I'm doing right now is I'm installing our braces. So you guys maybe have seen this before. I usually will do these in corners because windows and doors aren't usually in corners. So what I'm gonna do is plumb up, I'm gonna check for plumb. You know, we've got all these chains up right now holding everything where we want it, but they can't stay forever. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check this corner for plumb, and I'm gonna go check the other corner. They're not always perfect, and that's just the nature of the beast. And then we'll get this framing installed, and that's what's gonna lock it down. That's our permanent bracing in the walls. Right. So this wall here on our end is plumb, which means I can install these angle braces. Now, one thing you got to do if you're going to nail like this, because the PAS load will drive these nails through, is you got to check the backside. You don't want any of your nails popping out, and then when you install your metal, poking through your metal or causing a dimple. Now, when I go put this this next angle brace on here, we're going to form an X, and that's where the strength is going to come. But what it also does is this is not attached to these girts, it's spaced out. So what we'll do is down here at the bottom, I'm just taking a treated 2x and I'm blocking it out so it's in plane, and so we can get a nice strong connection at the bottom. You know, this is an engineered method that I stole from a building that we did a few years back for an 80 by 200 building. A lot of times you'll see a guy that'll run a board from the bottom all the way up to the top. It's not very strong. So we try to kick these down 45 degrees or less to try to make this as strong as possible. Now this is like climbing a ladder. In fact, I think it's safer because you go ahead and wrap your legs around a girt and you're not going anywhere. I almost forgot. Not sure how I could. That's our X bracing installed. This is our permanent bracing. It will stay here. You know, depending on the size of the building, the wall height of the building, it determines what we do here. So this back end wall, we've got one on this corner and one on that corner. And once we install our 26 gauge metal on the outside and our liner panel on the inside with the additional framing, the wall's not going anywhere. We'll have plenty of shear strength. Now we do the other side. Now, what I got going on with this wall here is it's not perfectly plumb. It's not perfectly plumb. It's not perfectly plumb. Yes, I know. Then why don't you fix it? Well, you can't really fix it without taking the entire wall down. What happens is when we set our concrete brackets, those get set to the exact dimension of the building. When we cut all of our lumber, and this is a 120-foot wall, when we cut all of our lumber, we build our walls. What can happen is gaps can occur between where your girts butt into each other, or if you're making cuts, and let's say your cut gets off a little bit, you might end up making your board just slightly, ever so slightly bigger than your intended dimension. What happens then is when you butt them all together, each one of those joints can add up to small growth in the building. When I take my Stabila plate level and I'm going from down here 12 feet up, I'm probably 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16 all the way up top gap. So my wall is evenly leaning out 3/16-ish on both ends. That's as good as it's gonna get, short of cutting all these girts down and reapplying them. You're never gonna achieve perfection. This end wall was pretty good, and sometimes that happens. The bigger the building, the more chance of error. It's the way it goes. So I just wanted to share that. I've got this where I want it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'll get this locked down. If you're using a 12 foot level here to check plumb, you're 3/16, 1/8 inch off. That's pretty good. Another great reason to use this size of a level or a laser, because if you're just using a 4 foot level and you check this and you think it's good, it might actually not be good. That's the double X brace. Usually I put them in the corners unless there's a reason we can't, like a door or a window. Like I said, I'll always go back to that 80 by 200 engineered commercial building. That's how they designed it, then it's probably good enough. It doesn't always make sense to pay and have a building re-engineered because it's always the same. All right, so when straightening out these large buildings, it definitely takes a lot of work, because sometimes when you push one area, you got to pull a different area. And that's why we like the chains, because the chains, they don't get stretched like a board does. A board can bow and warp and twist, just doesn't have the same level of strength. Right now, what we're doing is we plumbed up our 3 walls. Greg, that was pretty damn good, man. Probably wedge it your way? Yeah. But what we're doing now is I got Greg on the ground, and I'm gonna be reading the string line. I've got it pretty darn tight, almost tight enough that I bet with the right breeze. Now I can't hear it. Sometimes it'll sing on you. Greg, that was... I need to come back a little bit. You guys see that? This is already starting to look really good. We got one down there that's really crappy. But other than that, we're probably within 1/8 of an inch, no more than 1/4 probably, on any of these tails. I've done a whole video on this process. I'm not gonna bore you today. Just know that we're gonna use probably all, what would you say, 30 chains, Greg? Probably be pretty close. They're all 5/16 by 50s, I think. Just gonna use my square to, this might be a good reference here. Okay, I need it to go your way, bud. I'm hitting the string, a little more. Right there, see that? Okay, so that is where we're gonna lock that in. By the way, guys, this is a different camera. It's a little handheld. I just wanted to be able to have something a little more portable, so I've got the A7S III from Sony that I do most of my shooting on. This is the Sony ZV-1. I just got it. I don't have the dead cat on it, so it's picking up wind noise. I can put an external mic on, and that might help. It's just, I'm trying to get away from having to do all that and still be able to kind of organically just create some content when I want, because it's just stored in my pocket, basically. Let me know what you guys think. Look at that. Now, you might be looking down there saying, I don't know, Kyle, it still doesn't look like all that straight, but you got to remember, we're interested in the tails. So we're interested in this location right here, and Greg is waiting for me, so let me grab, where'd my square go? We're really only interested in this location being good. Greg, you could give it just the slightest of, hey, that board right there behind it. Just grab one of them little guys, maybe. Oh, a little more. Okay, I can live with that. But I think what I was trying to say is that the lumber itself, we always try to choose the best lumber for our fascia, but if there's any, you know, like movement or bow between this 8 foot, you're gonna see it. And we're gonna straighten that out when we put our roof steel on. But really all we're concerned with is making sure that the string line is right where our tails are. There we go, there's the plank. Right here you can notice that's where the crack developed when we tried picking it up. Now this bar back here, that's a huge square tube with some pallet forks welded on each end. so that's supporting the ends, and we got the forks for the telly in the middle, and it does a pretty good job. Each one of these steel bundles weighs around 2,000 pounds, so we're definitely not overloading the telehandler at all. So the way this is going to work is, now that these are up at height, all we do is we just slide them right off. And you might be thinking, man, that's going to scratch the metal. It really doesn't. As long as you pull it straight, you give it a little bit of a flick, and it rides on a pocket of air all the way up. And then once it gets close, I'll just lift this end up, and Greg will be up there on the other end. We got a lot of roof to do, so, and a little time to do it, Greg. You ready? You got your roofing shoes on?
They're over there.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, I got to get them cougar paws. We've got our filler strips. These are going to go underneath the metal. And we've got our bunk of trim that will cap the top of this 2x6. I'm a little concerned because they're calling 10 to 20 mile an hour winds today. It's already a little breezy, but I think we can go ahead and get started. I want to get some metal on this building before the wind shuts us down. I just want to get this thing locked down, you know? I'm probably not going to do a ton of filming. We're just going to go ahead and get right into this. I literally just went to the trailer to get my snips because I forgot them, so I could put my first piece of trim on this roof and start laying metal. By the time I got back, the wind doubled at least. We've got this warm front that's pushing in. It's 70 degrees right now, and it's gonna be 90 by the afternoon. Man, I really thought we'd slip in here and throw up some sheets, get the building locked down, but it's gonna have to wait. We're just gonna get here really early tomorrow. Son of a gun, Mother Nature, you can't control it. It is what it is. We almost left. I mean, we put all the equipment away and we were gonna leave, and it was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I'm glad we did because we got our first one of 4 bunks installed. It feels really good as a builder to know that the roof is getting installed. Well, we did it. We got all the roof metal on that we planned. Actually, I take that back. We didn't even plan on getting this much done. When that wind picked up this morning, we thought for sure we weren't going to get anything done. We wanted to get at least one bay on to lock it down, but we ended up getting the entire bunk of steel that we had on there installed. So that ends up being about half, well, it is half of one half. So we've got 4 bundles. We just got one of them installed. The 26 gauge metal was awesome. It's heavy, but it feels great. You can use the metal to kind of tweak your building, keeping it square and straight as you go. If you guys have seen a lot of my videos, you understand what I'm talking about, where we screw the bottom perfect and then we move the top, you know, back and forth to make sure that everything is good, and then we kind of manipulate the fascia to straighten it out. And I'll show you. I mean, as we kind of look down this, you maybe can't really tell in the video, but take my word for it, it's running really good. We've got another quarter to go to get this side done, but it's definitely too breezy. We're not going to risk it. We're going to come back tomorrow morning early and get on it. One side is officially done. Steel is all screwed off, and now we can go to the other side. Because this side is straight, we straightened this side, we locked it down. The other side will be straight when we put our fascia and our tails on. So with this side, we measure out our tails to be 24-inch overhangs. On the other side, we'll do our ends, and then we'll string between them, making sure that they're perfectly straight. And the reason that we do that is because, unfortunately, trusses are not always perfect. So when we install our trusses, you know, you could theoretically pull out a tape measure and check every one and, you know, adjust the wall accordingly, but that's not actually feasible. So if it's off a 1/4 inch, you'll never know it when we put our tails on and adjust the tail so that it looks straight. That just is the way it is, especially on a big building like this. It would be so tedious and not worth it. You would never gain anything. That's one of those things that you learn it's not going to add or take away from any part of this project. Well, actually it will. It'll take a lot of time. installing our tails, and typically we just measure 24 inches off of like our column, and then that is our tail. By the time we add our sub fascia, it's another 1.5 inches. Then we are 2 foot overhang from our girt. However, because this building is large, because it's really hard to measure a bottom chord on a truss when the bottom chord is elevated like this, we couldn't really check all of our dimensions on our trusses. So now, because we couldn't really check the dimensions on our bottom quarter of our trusses, we kind of had to just go with it. We had to trust that our truss engineer, our truss manufacturer, had built our trusses good. So what we did was, when we did the steel on the other side of the building, we put a string line out. It was a nice day. We got all those tails straight. But when it comes over to this side, we really don't want to just measure and then have, you know, tails that are in and out from each other. So what we've done is, once again, it's a little breezy, but it's not bad. And we were able to get a tail at the end on each end, and then one here in the middle with a string line. And these are 25.5 inches off of those posts, giving us a 2 foot overhang. So we're going to do all of our tails like we did this one back here, but instead of measuring, we're just going to go ahead and bring them out to the string line and stay 1.5 inches off of our string line, which is the dimension of our fascia board, and that should give us some very nice and straight tails and fascia. I don't like to do it this way. It is more cumbersome than just measuring and going 24 inches. I'm not trusting that that side over there is straight, which means this is going to be straight. We're going to make them both straight. Okay, one more thing that I wanted to do, and I've done this a couple times. So this is a 3-inch Pasload nail. It's a .131 framing nail. It's ring shank, and people are always in the comments saying, man, why does it take you guys a million hits to put your nails in? Well, let me just grab one of our nails here. So when I make videos and people are like, dude, why don't you hit it with your purse? Like, I just think that's ridiculous to say to somebody. But, dude, we're never going to be able to hit these 60-penny nails in with 3 hits. I mean, you probably could if you really, you know, decided to, like, Thor it up and really go hard. But that's a big nail. And we drive one of these in every one of these purlin locations going up the truss, and then we put 2 of these spikes into the top of our tail, and that's what's holding them down. It's amazing how strong it is, and the reason we like to use these is because these are hardened nails and they resist a ton of shear and breakage. So these things do not break easy. The ring shank holds in really nice. But unfortunately, guys, we can't drive them in a couple hits like you can a standard framing nail. There you go. We're getting some steel on. It's really nice and straight. Yeah, there's a little bit of bubbles in some of this flashing, but that'll kind of work its way out as we put the steel on. And it just feels good to be getting some steel up on this roof. Hey, sorry guys, I'm gonna apologize because it's pretty darn breezy up here. I'm more worried about getting the steel than I am getting video, but I wanted to let you know that we got this first full bay. We got 6 full sheets on, screwed down entirely. We've got one piece that's still got to go over there on that first, I guess the first piece on the edge, because we got those 2x12s that we use to brace the building. And so we usually leave that piece off until we get a full bay locked down. But now that we have this bay on, we have the entire other side on, most of those chains are fairly useless. Something that people always say is, what about all the tension on those chains? If you're putting that much tension, when you take them off, what's stopping the wood from going back? Well, you got to remember that wood is inherently not straight, so we're straightening it out. You're going to have a row of screws 120 foot long, keeping that section of wood exactly where we want it. We don't really concern ourselves with the tension on those fasteners because strength in numbers, you know, I don't know how to equate it, but there's no other way to do it. You have to straighten out the wood and then screw it down. So we're going to go ahead, evaluate the situation because it is a little breezy and we got to move some stuff out of our way and keep going. Remember, this building right here is right in our way, so we're not going to be able to drive our telehandler all the way through the end of this roof. So it's going to be tricky, and I'll share with you how we figure it out when I know what we're going to do. time-lapse GoPro going this morning while we've been installing this metal roof, just because we got here early before the breeze picked up and shut us off of this roof. And man, we got the hard part done. As you can see, we got the telehandler with our roof bunk on the other side of this old barn that was in our way. So we've already worked through that problem, and we've got like, I don't know, maybe 24 feet left. So 8 sheets to lay down. And then this roof steel is all gonna be laid. But I would venture to say we have probably, how many, Greg? A box of screws has 2,500 screws. We probably got 2 to 3 boxes of screws to lay down once we get this steel up, because we're just busting it out. We're not screwing it all down. We've got the bottom, the top screwed, and we'll go ahead and screw it all off once we're done. But the important thing is we got to get these sheets of steel up on the roof.